Chronicle thanks our 2023 Meet the Candidates sponsors, Flossmoor Station Restaurant and Brewery, Jonathan Kane Salon and Spa, and Tom Braybeck Law Office. With their help, HF voters will be well informed on Election Day, April 4th.
My name is Ann Colton, and I am running for Homewood Village Trustee. I've been a Homewood resident for 22 years. And my husband Bob and I moved here 22 years ago. We raised our 3 children here together as a family. We've explored all the local businesses. We've played in the parks. We've put all of our kids through all of the schools. I love Homewood and I love living here. It's one of the best decisions that I've ever made to come here. I served on the village board as a trustee, the same position I'm running for, from 2009 to 2018. And in those 9 years, I believe I distinguished myself as a trustee who listens, as a trustee who cares, as a trustee who does the work, who puts the research in. You know, anytime I had to make a decision, I would call the other taxing bodies, I would call local businesses, residents, I would talk to other municipalities, just anybody who could help me make the best decision and find the best outcome for everybody. I talk a lot in my campaign about this idea of the 7th trustee. And, you know, there's 6 trustees, but I want everyone in Homewood to feel like the 7th trustee, okay? I want them to feel like they've got a seat at the table, like their voice will be heard. I want to be engaged. I want to be there. I want to be your voice. I think on the whole, our village board does a good job. You know, and like I say, I was on the board for 9 years, and so I kind of have the insider's view. And I think for the most part, I agree with most of the things that they do. I think one area that I could use a little bit of nuancing is working with existing businesses. I think we put a lot of effort into, you know, attracting new businesses, and I think that's great. But I think we should lean into taking care of our current businesses a little bit more. I think that needs to be our focus, is making sure that Homewood is a destination for businesses where they feel like they can come here and be successful. Conversations that I've had with local businesses is they are very, very happy with the way the community of Homewood supports them. They feel like the people care, that people are happy that they're there, that they are able to attract customers. As a village, we need to support that because we'll have fewer vacancies to fill if we can keep our businesses successful. What we need to be good at is making sure that we find the right partners. Just because it's a big box doesn't mean it's going to be a bad partner. Target's been here for, 25 years? And they're like a great corporate citizen. They're a wonderful part of Homewood. You know, and then you've got Walmart, which less so. You know, I think we need to just make sure that it's not a question of like, are big box good or bad, but we need to take them on an individual case-by-case basis and make sure that we are aligning ourselves and partnering with people who are going to treat our community the way that we need to be treated. The Walmart situation I was there for, so I know a little bit more about it. That happened in 2015, I think. I wasn't thrilled with having them join us because I saw what they had just done to Glenwood, and they have a history of doing that. Like, they're bad. They're a bad neighbor. And so I was a little bit reticent about letting them move in at all. And then they pulled a fast one and said, oh, by the way, also we want a $5 million tax consideration, you know, the Class 8 consideration. In that situation, like, I think you need to just walk away when it's time to walk away, you know, and I think that there were other options available to us that we didn't use. Did we make lots and lots of money in sales tax in the short term? Yes, we did, but at what cost? You know, the cost is now we're just as, you know, in the same situation that we were 7 years ago, except the economy's a lot worse. The Calumet Country Club thing is a whole other situation. Could we have had a different outcome? I'm not sure. I don't understand. I wasn't on the board at that time, so I don't really understand the nuances. But what I can tell you is that the board should have done a better job of explaining what was going on and bringing the community in. If we, the village, had done that, a better job of communication, a better job of listening, I think it would have gone very differently. I think it's going to be interesting, too, to see what happens with 183rd, and because I know there's talk of between Dixie Highway and Morgan, I believe, doing a road diet where they would take 183rd and turn it into one lane in each direction with the turning lane and bike lanes. As a cyclist, I absolutely love this idea. You know, as a pedestrian, as a runner, like I love having 183rd not being like the speedway that it is. The only concern that I have is that it is the only throughway for anybody, like 183rd, that's the only way to get to the Halsted corridor. If you live west of the tracks. And so unless you go to Vollmer, and no one's going to do that, or up to 159, nobody's going to do that either. So it's 183rd or nothing. And it's going to be interesting to see what the impact is on Halsted. Are people still, is that going to impact our setting? Because we do rely on Halsted. Mr. Haney was telling me that they haven't been able to find a lot of comparatives around the country, even of people who said, well, we've only got one throughway and we're going to reduce it. Let's see how that works. So that's the only thing that gives me a little bit of pause, and I would love to see more data before I say, hey, let's definitely for sure do that. There was a jiu-jitsu martial arts place that wanted to move in on Dixie. I can't remember exactly where. I think it was right by Culture, where Culture is now. It was right around there, and so they wanted to come in, but we had two other martial arts studios. And other two companies, they're like, no, we don't want any other martial arts. And I'm like, okay, good, well, that's the way I'm going to vote then. And so, and I did that, and there was, when we did the vote, there was some sort of a procedural error that happened at some point that meant that we had to rehear it 2 weeks later and like just re-vote, and it was all going to be the same, and it was going to be fine. It was a 4-3 vote, so it was close. During the interim, a gentleman, a neighbor of mine, knocked on my door and he said, hey, can I just talk to you about something real quick? And I said, sure. So we went out and we went for a walk, and we were walking around, and he said, he's a martial arts guy, and he schooled me on the difference between jiu-jitsu and taekwondo and stuff like that. And he's like, jiu-jitsu is a whole different thing. He's like, I know it all comes under the martial arts umbrella, but this is different people will be attracted. They're not actually going to be working against each other. And it opened my eyes, and I ended up changing my vote. The community actually responded really well. They're like, oh, okay, well, here's somebody who does their homework, you know, and here's someone who isn't afraid, because like, I'm not afraid to speak my mind, but I'm also not afraid to change my mind if the data takes me that way. And the only way you're going to get that data is to engage. It all comes back to engagement. Whether we're engaging with the other taxing bodies, whether we're engaging with our residents, with our businesses, with our neighbors, other municipalities, we can't operate in a silo. You know, Homewood is an amazing community, and I want to keep it amazing. I want it to be just as welcoming and just as fantastic for the next young family who comes in and decides that they want to raise their kids here. And the best way to do that is to be able to leverage the knowledge and the passion of the people who live here and the people who do business here.